I'm 84 years old, and I need you to listen to me carefully, not because I'm wiser than you, not because I lived some extraordinary life, but because time did something to me that nobody warned me about. When you're young, people tell you getting old is about wrinkles, about slower steps, about gray hair. They joke about it. They romanticize it. They tell you retirement will be peaceful, quiet mornings, no alarms, no pressure. But what they don't tell you is what the quiet really sounds like. They don't tell you how loud silence becomes when the house stops needing you, when your phone stops ringing as much, when the world slowly moves forward without asking if you're keeping up. I used to think aging was about the body breaking down. I was wrong. The body adjusts. The knees ache. The back stiffens. You learn to live with that. What you're not prepared for is the feeling of becoming optional, of walking into a room and realizing you're no longer the center of anything. When I was 30, I believed I had endless time. At 40, I was too busy building a career to think about time. At 50, I thought I was still young enough to fix anything later. At 60, I believed I had at least 20 good years left. And then suddenly, I was 84, and the years in between feel like a blur of chasing things that don't sit beside you when the house gets quiet at night. Nobody tells you that one day you'll sit in a chair in a beautiful garden watching the sunset and feel both grateful and painfully aware that most of your story is already written. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because I wish someone had looked me in the eyes when I was young and said, "You are going to run out of ordinary days. And when you do, you will wish you treated them like they were extraordinary." When I was younger, I measured my worth in productivity, in promotions, in how exhausted I felt at the end of the day. I thought being tired meant I was important. I missed dinners. I postponed vacations. I told myself, I'm doing this for my family. And maybe I believed that. But if I'm honest, I was also doing it for my ego. I wanted to feel significant, needed, respected. There's nothing wrong with ambition. But there is something dangerous about believing that achievement can replace presence. I didn't realize that my children didn't need a perfect provider. They needed a present father. I thought providing financially was enough. I thought there would always be time later for deeper conversations, for slow afternoons, for listening without looking at my watch. I convinced myself that once things settled down, I'd become the man I meant to be. But life doesn't settle down. It shifts. It evolves. It demands new versions of you. And if you don't intentionally pause, you miss the quiet moments that never come back. The promotion feels incredible for a week. The bigger house feels impressive for a month. The new car smells good for a year. But the memory of your daughter asking you to play while you were too busy, that lingers for decades. Success is loud when you're building it. But in old age, it becomes strangely silent. The trophies gather dust. The titles fade. And what remains are the relationships you either nurtured or neglected. I am not poor. I am not homeless. I am not alone in the physical sense. But I can tell you this. Material comfort does not protect you from emotional distance. And emotional distance is far colder than any financial struggle I ever faced. There is a moment that happens quietly. No announcement, no dramatic music, just a subtle shift in awareness. You wake up and realize you have fewer years ahead than behind. That realization changes everything. When you're young, time feels expandable. When you're old, time feels fragile. I remember the first time a close friend passed away. It shook me, not just because I lost him, but because it reminded me that the circle was shrinking. Conversations became about medications instead of dreams, about surgeries instead of travel plans. You start counting years differently. You measure them in holidays left, in birthdays you hope to attend. You begin noticing how quickly seasons change. and suddenly, small arguments you once obsessed over feel ridiculous. The grudges you carried seem heavy and pointless. I wish I had learned earlier that most conflicts are temporary, but lost time is permanent. I spent years holding on to pride, years refusing to apologize first, years assuming there would be another opportunity to fix what was strained. Sometimes there was, sometimes there wasn't, and the ones that weren't stay with you. Aging forces honesty. It strips away illusions. You begin asking yourself uncomfortable questions. Did I love enough? Did I listen enough? Did I show up when it mattered? Those questions are heavier than any physical weight I've ever lifted. And they don't care about your bank account. At 84, the things that matter have become embarrassingly simple. A phone call that isn't rushed. A meal shared without distraction. A laugh that isn't scheduled between obligations. Presence. That's the word I didn't understand when I was young. Presence is not just being physically there. It's being emotionally available. It's putting your phone down. It's asking a question and truly listening to the answer. It's remembering that the person in front of you will not always be there. I used to think grand gestures defined love, expensive gifts, big celebrations. But what defines love in old age are the small consistencies, the steady effort, the reliable kindness, the decision to choose someone even when you're tired, especially when you're tired, because when your body slows down and your social circle shrinks, those small consistencies are what surround you. I've learned that loneliness isn't about being physically alone. It's about feeling unseen. And the cure for that isn't money. It isn't status. It's connection. Real, unfiltered connection. If you are still young enough to change your habits, please understand this. Invest in people the way you invest in your future, because one day your future will depend on them. If you are under 40, you think this message is for someone else. I did too. If you are between 40 and 60, you believe you still have time to adjust later. That's what I believed. But later is the most dangerous word in the English language. Later becomes next year. Next year becomes next decade. And next decade becomes memory. I'm not asking you to abandon ambition. I'm not telling you to quit your job or stop building your dreams. I'm asking you to build a life that still makes sense when the noise fades. Call your parents while they can still answer. Play with your children without checking the clock. Tell your spouse what you appreciate about them before silence replaces the opportunity. Protect your health before it demands your attention. Forgive faster. Apologize sooner. Sit in the garden sometimes, even if you're not old yet, because one day you will sit there at 84, like me, and you will either feel peace or you will feel regret. I cannot change my past, but you still can shape your future. And if my voice reaches you today, then maybe my years were not wasted after all.